The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are watching their multi-million-dollar golden couple brand burn to the ground in real time. For years, they were Hollywood's untouchable sweethearts, but the public has finally had enough of the calculated perfection. It started with a whisper, but now the industry is shouting. They're in a desperate scramble to save their reputations, yet every move they make just fuels the fire. The marriage that once seemed like a fairy tale is now facing its ultimate crisis point, as the world realizes the people they've been cheering for might not exist at all. This isn't just a PR hiccup, it's a total collapse of everything they built. It all kicked off with Ryan Reynolds deciding to rebrand himself as some kind of gritty immigrant success story. In a recent high-profile interview, he actually tried to compare his journey from Canada to Hollywood to that of someone fleeing a war zone. He was out there talking about standing in bread lines and grabbing a pool toy to float across the ocean. He even did this bizarre, fake Eastern European accent that left everyone in the room feeling physically uncomfortable. It was tone-deaf, offensive, and completely unhinged for a guy who grew up in a wealthy country with massive industry connections. The internet didn't just cringe, they started digging into the reality of his past. The truth about Ryan's rise to fame is far less heroic than the story he's selling now. People were quick to point out that he didn't build an empire through sheer struggle. He used every bit of privilege he had. Before he was a household name, he was dating Alanis Morissette when she was one of the biggest musicians on the planet. He consistently dated famous women way above his professional league to get his leg up in the industry. Now he wants to lecture the public about the American dream and immigrant struggles when he was really just a guy with every advantage who knew how to work the system. This fake persona is the first brick to fall in their crumbling wall of credibility. The timing of Ryan's Ethical Crusader tour couldn't be worse. He recently went to the Toronto International Film Festival and gave an interview about how much he hates when people lack integrity. It was a staggering display of irony, considering he and Blake are currently being dragged for some of the most unethical behavior Hollywood has seen in years. While Ryan is talking about his high moral compass, he's been accused of ghostwriting scenes for movies he had no business touching. He's describing a lack of integrity in others while ignoring the fact that he's built a massive shield around himself to avoid any actual accountability for his own actions. It's pure projection. The most wild part of this situation is the literal fortress they've built around their lives. Ryan and Blake have created a massive ecosystem of PR experts, lawyers, and managers whose only job is to make sure no real consequences ever reach them. They've turned themselves into these untouchable figures who can do whatever they want and have a team clean up the mess. Ryan sits in interviews talking about how he feels shame when people act without integrity, yet he's surrounded by people paid to ward off the consequences of his own choices. He's literally describing the bubble he lives in without even realizing how hypocritical he sounds to the average person watching. While Ryan is busy failing his PR tour, Blake Lively is having an even messier time in the spotlight. The stories coming out about her personality are damaging her career in a way she never expected. People are finally pointing out that she seems to be dealing with deep-seated insecurities about aging and the fear of being overshadowed by younger stars. Instead of handling these natural changes gracefully, she's been accused of tearing other women down to make herself feel superior. The mask of the cool girl is falling away to reveal someone who many are now calling a classic Hollywood mean girl, and nowhere is this more evident than in her treatment of Isabella Ferrer. The Isabella Ferrer situation is being called the perfect example of Blake's dark energy. Isabella was supposed to have her huge breakout moment as the co-star of It Ends With Us. She's 22, talented, and this was her time to shine. But instead of being a mentor, Blake reportedly took that moment away from her. On the surface, Blake offered to style Isabella for the press tour, which sounded like a veteran actress helping a newcomer. But critics are pointing out that Blake actually went out of her way to make sure Isabella looked terrible. While Blake wore eye-catching, high-fashion dresses, Isabella was put in boring, bland outfits that made her look like an assistant. The sabotage didn't stop at the clothes. During the premiere, where the theme was supposed to be florals and friendship, Isabella showed up looking like a background character. She was dressed in a cheap-looking outfit layered with Blake's entire personal bracelet collection, looking completely out of place. Throughout the interviews, Blake was caught speaking over her, pushing her out of the conversation, and making sure the spotlight never shifted away from herself. It was a calculated move to ensure that the 22-year-old rising star remained in Blake's shadow. Fans were horrified by the blatant power dynamic and the way Blake seemed to relish in the control. To make matters even more embarrassing, Blake publicly announced that Isabella was wearing her personal clothes. This was seen by many as a subtle way to tell the world that the younger actress was too poor to have her own wardrobe. It wasn't an act of kindness, it was a move to establish dominance. This kind of behavior has led to a massive shift in public opinion, with people across social media claiming Blake has a dark energy that she's been hiding for years. The professional consequences of this reputation are starting to hit her where it hurts the most, her credits and her future projects in the industry. The professional fallout is getting even more intense for Blake specifically. There is a massive petition circulating right now, with nearly 20,000 signatures, and it's not just coming from angry fans. High-level industry producers are signing on to have Blake's producer credit stripped from the film It Ends With Us. They're claiming she didn't actually meet the legal eligibility criteria to be credited as a producer. Apparently, she never even signed her official contract and was just operating on set with a level of authority she hadn't legally earned. In Hollywood, that's more than just a mistake. It's a massive liability that could lead to audits. The legal murky waters don't end there. An attorney recently published an article that is sending shockwaves through the industry by drawing parallels between Blake's legal moves and a high-profile case involving a former Google CEO. The theory suggests that Blake might be using specific California laws to weaponize allegations as a way to win business disputes. People are starting to ask if her conflict with Justin Baldoni was actually about being a victim, or if it was a strategic move to protect her influence on the film. If she filed claims just to gain leverage in a producer dispute, it could mean the end of her credibility in the eyes of both the public and the courts. While she fights to keep her credits, Blake's career seems to be hitting a dead end. She was supposed to produce and star in a major project called We Used to Live Here, which was announced back in 2021 with a lot of hype. But if you look at the industry databases right now, that project has completely vanished. No updates, no casting, no dates. When a high-profile movie just disappears like that, it usually means the lead actor has become such a liability that nobody wants to touch the project. The industry is starting to see her as difficult to work with, and that label is often the kiss of death for even the biggest stars in Hollywood. The desperation to fix this is becoming almost painful to watch. Recently, Blake apparently got word that Rihanna was going to be at a fancy restaurant, so she and Ryan showed up specifically to bump into her. They knew the paparazzi would be there, and they were desperate for a photo op with an actual survivor of abuse to help repair Blake's image. But the plan backfired completely. They didn't get the photo, and people immediately pointed out the gross irony. Rihanna is a real victim who has handled her life with grace, while Blake is being accused of using victimhood as a business tactic. The thirst for validation was palpable and deeply embarrassing. We are currently witnessing a multi-million-dollar PR campaign in full swing. Ryan and Blake are pushing every magazine, every interview, and every social media post they can to convince us they are still the good people we used to like. But the more they try, the more the public pushes back. They should be lying low and letting the storm pass, but their egos won't let them. They are obsessed with the idea that if they just perform hard enough, we will forgive them. But you can't perform authenticity, and the more they try to force us to like them, the more the audience starts to see through the high-priced smoke and mirrors. The most obvious sign of this crisis is the sudden surge in manufactured paparazzi moments. Over the last few weeks, they have been out doing these incredibly staged photo ops. We're talking about piggyback rides and curated displays of intimacy that look like they were directed by a film crew. Every outfit is perfectly chosen to look casual, but expensive. It's a desperate attempt to flood the internet with happy images, so that when people search their names, the negative news gets buried under photos of them looking in love. But fans have become experts at spotting fake moments, and these photos are being mocked for how calculated they feel. Ryan is also trying a different tactic, the sad story strategy. Suddenly, you can't go anywhere online without seeing a new interview where he's recounting a tragic moment from his past. The latest one is a story about being hit by a drunk driver when he was 18. While that is a horrible thing to happen to anyone, the timing of the revelation is what has people furious. He's dropping these sympathetic stories right when the Justin Baldoni lawsuit settled, and Blake's Mean Girl reputation went viral. It's a textbook SEO manipulation tactic designed to make sure only positive, sympathetic content shows up at the top of Google. The most telling sign that this is a PR stunt is that Ryan currently has nothing to promote. He has no movies coming out, no new business launches, and no projects that would normally require this kind of massive press run. He is out there doing interviews for the sole purpose of building up a reservoir of goodwill before the next wave of controversy hits. He knows his entire fortune depends on being the charming, relatable guy. If that disappears, his business revenue goes with it. People are even pointing out that the money he's spending on this PR campaign could probably have been used to pay the workers he allegedly stiffed. That's another dark cloud hanging over the couple. Claims that workers on Ryan's property were never paid for their labor. While that story was quickly buried by their team, people are starting to bring it back up as proof of a pattern. The past is catching up to them in a way that no amount of money can fully fix. Allegations that they've managed to hide for years are resurfacing, and the internet is keeping receipts. From unpaid labor to dangerous working conditions, the perfect couple facade is being stripped away to reveal a much more ruthless business machine that values the brand over the people who helped build it. Perhaps the most chilling story resurfacing is that of Joy Harris, the stunt woman who died on the set of one of Ryan's movies. She was performing a motorcycle stunt without a helmet, and reports are now circulating that Ryan himself gave the instruction to keep the helmet off for the sake of the movie's aesthetic. He allegedly didn't want the visual clutter of safety gear in his shot. If true, it shows a level of disregard for human life that is impossible to reconcile with his nice guy persona. Families are remembering these tragedies, and as the public turns against him, these stories are gaining more traction than ever before. Then there are the bizarre rumors from Ryan's teenage years that are suddenly gaining steam. Multiple sources have come forward claiming that Ryan allegedly burned down part of his school when he was a teenager and used to brag about it. While these claims haven't been legally verified, the fact that they are being shared and believed by so many people shows exactly how much trust the public has lost. When your reputation is solid, people ignore wild rumors. When your brand is collapsing, every dark story becomes a piece of the puzzle people are trying to put together. He's no longer the golden boy. He's a liability. Even the way he treats his co-stars is coming under fire. There are claims about what happened with Marina Batcher on a movie set, where she was reportedly made to perform a physically demanding underwater scene just 5 months after giving birth. Making a new mother do something that dangerous without proper safety considerations is a massive red flag. If Ryan was involved in that decision, it adds to a growing list of allegations that he prioritizes the film's success over the well-being of the people making it. People are pulling up every old interview and every behind-the-scenes story to prove that this behavior isn't new. Blake is trying her own version of damage control by attempting to seem more intellectual on social media. She recently posted a quote from a famous physicist, but the move backfired when fans called it out as a desperate attempt to seem smarter than her reputation suggests. People are comparing her to Anna Kendrick, who is seen as genuinely witty and intelligent, and the comparison is making Blake look even more performative. She's trying to rebrand herself as a thoughtful intellectual after being exposed as a mean girl, but the public isn't buying the new character. They've seen the real Blake, and they aren't looking back. Ultimately, what we are seeing is the total destruction of a carefully engineered image. Blake and Ryan spent a decade building a brand based on being the most relatable, charming couple in the world, but they forgot that the truth always finds a way out. They've burned too many bridges, manipulated too many systems, and hurt too many people to keep the act going. The industry is pushing back, the public is exhausted by the performance, and the mask is gone for good. The real question isn't if they can recover, but if they will ever have to face real consequences for the trail of wreckage they've left behind.